Hi, I'm Jason from the Dental Equipment Repair channel. Today, I'd like to introduce you to my toolkit. When I go out and do dental equipment repairs, I need to have all the right tools with me, but I need to carry the necessary things that are what I'm going to need, but not an excessive amount. I have carried extra tools into the job before, and sometimes a larger bag can slow you down. And so sometimes when I go into a job, I will bring this toolkit with me. This is what I'm going to be showing you today. This is kind of what I would consider to be my go bag. If I was to go just take care of an office or just show up to do miscellaneous repairs, this is exactly what I would bring with me. And I would consider myself to be well prepared for any sort of problem to kind of tighten something or to repair something. And so I'm just going to show you today this setup. Now, first I'm going to talk about the bag. This bag is called a stat pack, and this is something that I picked up actually secondhand from a local university. And this bag has been really awesome. It is this molded bag. It's like a two-part design with the zipper, but it has this really neat handle. So when I go to grab it, I can actually have this as part of a larger bag, and I just simply grab the handle, pick it up, and go. Everything stays pretty well contained in there, and it also is just really easy to take with me. So this bag is the stat pack, and I recommend just the small bag that you can carry and put everything in to be the kind of the starting point of your toolkit. Now I'm going to go ahead and open it up. Now this toolkit just has a zipper, and what I like about it is when I open it up, everything just kind of stays together. So the two kind of clamshells will just kind of hold everything. So when I'm working around, I can kind of just move it around. I can set it down. I can pick it up. I can pick the whole thing up. I can move it around. And the tools can follow me where I'm going. So the way that this kit is, it's a little bit chaotic. But I'm just going to kind of walk through the tools that are in it, and we'll talk about each one. The first tool that I'll go ahead and tell you about is my 6-in-1. Now, I've already done a video on this, and the 6-in-1 is really the go-to tool. What makes it a 6-in-1 is that it has basically a removable handle, and we've got 2 bits here, we've got 2 bits here, and then we've got a 1/4-inch nut driver and a 5/16 nut driver. Now, the reason I really like this tool is not because of the screwdrivers, but because of the nut drivers. Now, I'll go ahead and demonstrate real quick the nut driver feature and why this is handy in dentistry. Now, the first thing that's handy is the 1/4-inch nut driver, because if you ever are trying to remove a barb, you can simply use the 1/4-inch nut driver to turn off the barb, and you can easily remove barbs from dental control blocks using this feature. The other side of the 6-in-1 is the 5/16 nut driver. Now, this nut driver is handy because a lot of situations, especially in the utility room, have pipe clamps. Pipe clamps will accept this 5/16 nut driver, and this makes it very easy to turn and tighten a clamp. It just fits right on there, and that is a really great tool. Of course, we have the Phillips, the number 1 and number 2, as well as a large and small standard screwdriver. So that's our 6-in-1. Very handy, very good tool. The next thing that we'll talk about is our Allen wrenches. I carry both sets of Allen wrenches. I utilize a Harbor Freight set here, and the reason is because I usually will lose Allen wrenches or they'll go MIA. And what's nice about this set is they're actually redundant. So there's a small Allen wrench and a large Allen wrench. They don't cover all the same sizes, but they are most of the sizes that you'll need. There are 2 of them. So it gives you a little bit of extra room in there in case you lose an Allen wrench. And if they remain vertical, they actually stay retained fairly well. And so this set from Harbor Freight is relatively inexpensive. I think it's around $8, and it's the best value and the best performing Allen wrenches that I've found. Next, we have a pair of needle nose pliers. It's pretty self-explanatory. I like the needle nose pliers because they're very good at grabbing and getting in places that are hard to reach. And then you also have the little side cutter feature, which is handy for stripping wires or for making cuts and for just doing miscellaneous cutting tasks. And this is just a good set of, well, it's really just a cheap set of needle nose, and that gets the job done. After that, I've got a pair of adjustable pliers. These adjustable pliers are nice when you have to get your grip on something that's a little bit larger. I've kind of settled on this Milwaukee set. They have a really nice, like kind of a push button, open and close, as well as they've got these nice little angled jaws there. And so they tend to have done pretty good for me, and they also are, they feel pretty good in my hand. So slip joint pliers are really good to have, and these are small. They fit well in my kit. The next tool is an air water syringe tool from DCI. This is a great little tool because you have it's a valve core removal tool for older style syringes. We have a pin here to push out the air water syringe retention pins, as well as the properly sized Allen wrench that will fit in a air water syringe. So the Allen wrench fits right in here, and that way you can turn off the face, as well as you can utilize the pin to basically advance out the pin if you have one that's not seized, which I may have grabbed one that's seized. Enjoy. Just striking out here. All right, well, and as I'm doing this, the pin's seized, so that kind of sucks. So if I was experiencing this in the field, I would move on to my next tool, which is a crescent wrench, otherwise known as a pinching hammer, adjustable hammer. And so I would take this, I would lay it down somewhere, and I would proceed to whoop it until it's submitted. And this is how I would use this. So this is some bonus feature right here. I would take it and go ahead and do that. Meanwhile, I would destroy my tool, but that's okay because I usually have a few of them. But I would take that and advance that pin out and properly wreck. Oh my gosh, Hunter, this is terrible. Okay, well maybe I'll show you how I would actually use my tools. So I just destroyed my air water syringe tool, which is a couple dollars. And so I would just get another one, and then I would use my pliers that I just showed you. And this was literally unscripted. So I would pull that out. Oh my gosh, what is this? Like Your Life is a Mess with Jason? Holy mackerel. Okay, well, then that's really interesting that you get to see me actually use my tools. And even this is honestly, I just picked this up off the shelf. And, man, this thing is... Oh, there you go. So, that's the reason I have so many tools, is because if you try one thing, it doesn't work, you just try another thing.
Still close for missiles, Goose. I'm switching to guns.
So, this tool is somewhat effective for getting the pin out if it's not seized already. Now, this one is... yeah, so there you go. That was pretty, I don't know if that was sad or, I mean, I guess you saw me get the job done. I mean, I pulled the pin out and put it back in. So, interesting. But yes, this is now a broken air water syringe tool, but that's what I carry. So that guy will need to be replaced. Next is a really great tool here. This is called a tack puller, and this thing is amazing. I love carrying this tool, and this has really been a terrific tool. If you're trying to get a ferrule or a piece of tubing off of a barb, you can actually use this tool to get on there, and then you can kind of move it forward. You can use it to kind of like angle it up. Usually there's a ferrule on there, and it's not as compelling without it. Maybe I should get a ferrule so that you can see what it should really look like. Okay, to properly demonstrate this, I'm actually going to show you another tool first, which is a actual ferrule application tool. So this is, naturally, can't be easy, but interesting. So I'll use my needle nose pliers again. Hopefully. Man, that thing just doesn't want to go on there. It just sucks. Okay, this tool here is we call it the finger saver. And what this will do is apply a pressure to a ferrule. So basically you can use it on your 1/8 inch or your 1/4 inch. So this is a tool that I carry. Pretty handy. And then we've got this bad lad. So now you use your tack puller, you can put it on there, and you can use that to basically remove your ferrules there. All right, just like that. So this is a pretty handy way to get in there. I've also found other uses for it. Okay, so that is that. We've covered that. Obviously, crescent wrenches are handy. We joke around about the adjustable hammer, but they have been known to get beat up. With the crescent wrenches, I usually carry just the medium size crescent wrench. This is an 8 inch that I just got from the big box store. But I've also got this other crescent wrench, and this one is one I found online, and it's kind of neat because it actually is cut away. And I found that allows you to get the jaws there into a tighter area sometimes, and that can help you, really when you're trying to get something apart. And then as far as having to have 2 wrenches for backing, you can use one as a backing wrench and the other to turn whatever nut you're trying to turn. So this is what I like to just carry in terms of wrenches because, you never know what you're going to be confronted with, but these, this kind of subs out as a hammer, and then this guy is pretty good as well. So next is a seam ripper, and this seam ripper is kind of an unusual add to the box. It's pretty handy actually. Whenever you're working with air water syringe tubing, you can use a seam ripper. If you find a spot right there in the middle, you can use a seam ripper to just separate that and have a nice clean cut. Now I have seen some technicians, I'll come behind them and they'll just do this, and you end up with this little ripply kind of a tear, and I just don't like that. I think it kind of looks, I don't know, a little hurried, and it just doesn't, it's not the kind of the work that I like to do. So seam ripper for me. And then also the seam ripper does also work for handpiece tubing, where you would need to go ahead and get a handpiece tubing connected to a block. You would be able to just use your seam ripper to go in there, and then I open it apart, and then you just kind of carefully find the opening between each tube, and then you can use a seam ripper to quickly separate those out without actually damaging and cutting the tube. So that's how I would use a seam ripper for this. Your other option, if you don't have a seam ripper, is you can use a pair of scissors. Now this is a set of electrician scissors that I found. These are Work Pros, and I like these because they're stubby, they stow well, and they also have a wire stripping feature. You have to be careful though, because if your finger gets caught up in there, they'll mangle you a little bit. But if you're ever without a seam ripper, you can always take your scissors and you can always go like this, and you can go from the end. It's a little bit slower, but it's still, kind of gets the job done. But if you look at how quick it was for me to use a seam ripper, that's why I carry one. So then, but scissors are good because you never know when you need to cut something. And whenever I'm doing it like a hasty deinstall, I'll use these scissors because they're electrician scissors. They can cut through different like power cords. You obviously have to make sure they're unplugged first, but you can chop through cords, cabling, you know, anything where you're trying to pull things out. I use the scissors, and they're almost as good as a set of side cutters, which I don't have in my box. So these scissors are good. I do carry a Sharpie, a fine point pen, just for marking things up, you know, when I'm removing things. If you are ever getting ready to cut a tubing, I would, you know, basically just kind of make, if they were all the same color, I would just make a identical number of marks on it, and then you can use your scissor, and then you can kind of tell not only, you know, telling which ones go together, but then you can also tell if you have some extras where those extras might be, and you'll kind of know what shouldn't be hooked up or what should, especially if you're making a reconnection. That'll make sense. So you can leave yourself kind of a little bit of a code there with the pen. I carry silicone grease. This is faucet grease from Lowe's. This is for putting on O-rings. There's a lot of O-rings that we work with in dentistry, so it's always a good idea to lubricate them, so I always carry faucet grease with me. Now there's this little panel wrench. This is kind of a peculiar one from DCI. This is a great tool. If you, on different panels, you've got the little hex nuts where you would, you know, you can use this to basically tighten it. And this is a real handy tool, especially for kind of getting in somewhere, and that way you're not like mangling things with your needle nose pliers. So this panel wrench is definitely in my tool bag, and this one is really a handy tool. The next thing that I will show you is my electrical tape. Electrical tape is just infinitely handy because sometimes you just need to tape stuff together. When you're deinstalling x-rays, you can tape the arm. If you're trying to run things, you can tape them together. Or, you know, maybe you're just trying to make an electrical connection safe or hold together. Another type of thing that I'll do with electrical tape is if I'm pulling a line from one side to the other, but I need to pull it back through, I will tape the one end, and then I will go ahead and tape the electrical tape together. And then I'll use this as a sort of a fish tape to basically pull it one way and pull the other. And I just kind of nullify the stickiness in the middle so that you can pull the electrical tape one way and then you can pull it back the other way. So you can use electrical tape as a fishing tape in the absence of having a fishing tape, or if you just need to do a quick deinstall, reinstall. So there's that. Basically pipe thread sealing tape. There's a lot of times where you'll encounter like a leak on an autoclave, or you'll have a leak somewhere else where having some thread tape is pretty handy, so I always carry a thread tape on my bag. Now, I do have hemostats here. Hemostats are great for kinking off lines. I would caution you though, if you're using hemostats, to just make sure you're not really damaging the line that you're kinking off. But hemostats are good for that, and then they can grab something that is a little ways away from you, and you can use that to kind of reach in somewhere that you can't access with your fingers. Now, this guy here is real handy. It's a crimper, cutter. Now, this isn't really that great of a wire stripper. I mean, you have the strippers there. But what I do really like about it is it's got these holes right here that are in a little bit of a happy face. And besides making me happy, they are actually really useful, because there's going to be times where you've got a piece of hardware that you're trying to make fit that maybe is a little bit too long, maybe you lost it, and you've got a long bolt that's the right thread pitch in your box, but it's too long for the application. What's great about this is that you can take it and you can actually thread it in. You know, this is just standard thread sizes. You can thread it in until it screws through, and what you do is you basically measure from the end to basically the middle of the two shears. All right, and then say you have your right size, you measure it out, then what you would do is you would just go ahead and cut it. All right. And this is what is real nice about this, if it actually works, I grabbed a bolt that was pretty big. Oh, just like that. Okay, there you go. So it cut off. Now what you need is your 6-in-1, and then you would just go ahead and take the right size screwdriver, and then what this does is straighten the threads after you cut it. So now you basically have the properly sized bolt, thanks to this. So this stays on in my bag just because I'm always grabbing it again, and it just kind of lives there. So extra one of those. DCI has a little 3/32 ball Allen wrench. This is utilized for a lot of A-deck blocks where you're going to be adjusting things like your drive air pressure. This is mainly for your drive air adjustment. So that is a real handy little guy to have. Now I think we're almost done there. Oh, look at that. Ooh, that's like magic. See, I told you I was going to replace that. There you go. Okay. Now, okay, so that is that. This wire right here is in my bag. This is called a nitinol wire. This is a memory spring wire. The memory spring wire is interesting because it's basically really springy, and it also doesn't really have a memory. You can bend it and it just straightens right back out. Now what's neat about this wire is that it's very strong, and so I mentioned earlier fishing things. You can actually use this to fish. You can fish tubing through umbilicals, and you can also use this wire to clear blockages from tubing. So you basically can take this, if you have a tubing that's obstructed, you can just take that and then just advance that in there. And this is just amazing because it will go all the way through, and you can use this to clear blockages in dental unit water lines, and you can also use it to clear blockages in your scalers. So if you access an ultrasonic scaler from the control, you take the top off and you pop the water line, you can run this wire through the water line and dislodge that biofilm buildup that's inside of those scalers. And so it's pretty neat. It does kind of stick up if it's not straight, but essentially if you do have it straight, it'll kind of pull in and out. And so that is a tool that I use now, and I've kind of invent uses for it as I have it. But just having kind of a mini fishing tape in your bag is really handy, especially if you're working by yourself. Now the electrical tape, fish tape hack is kind of useful as well, but this wire is really handy when it comes to unclogging biofilm. So that is called nitinol wire. And actually, this one I've got from an old job where I used to change radioactive sources, and so this is kind of just something that we have, but I think this one's about 7 feet, and I would highly recommend this wire in your bag. Now I think we're kind of near to the end where also this is kind of the one supply item that I carry with me. I carry large zip ties and small zip ties. And zip ties are always handy for securing things or for rerouting things. Whenever I use my scissor to free things up, I'll generally try to put back a zip tie for routing purposes so that when I'm done, everything won't cut on itself and it will be, have a long serviceable life. Alright, so there you have it. This is the toolkit that I carry with me, and these are all the tools that are I found to be the most handy in this industry. Back to the beginning, I would definitely say these stat packs are a great way to carry this around. I would definitely give this company a shout out. They have a very well-made bag here. And the reason I'd say that is I've been doing dental repair full time for about 5 years, and this bag has been with me the whole time, and it's lasted the whole time. And it's maybe a little worse for the wear, but I would definitely say if you're looking for a quality bag that kind of carries what we need. I think this one is maybe for IV fluids or something, but it works great for what we need. So thank you very much for your time. This is Jason from the Dental Equipment Repair Channel, just trying to spread a little bit of information about tools that have helped me to serve dentists, and I think every tech should have these tools readily at their hand, and this is how I do it. Thank you very much.